"David, your wife is doing so well. Look at her. Unlike my wife, Hanna, she is so useless and good for nothing. All she knows how to do is sit at home and ask me for money to buy food." Gabriel laughed as he said it in front of David and his wife Sarah. Hannah sat quietly at the table, fighting back her tears. She had no idea that years later, Gabriel would walk into his office and discover that the woman he called useless had become the new owner of the company he worked for. Hannah had spent years praying for a husband. At 32, she was tired of waiting and believed Gabriel was the answer to her prayers. But after their wedding, the man she trusted slowly changed. Her pastor had warned her to wait and pray, but Hannah was too desperate to listen. She never knew that the marriage she rushed into would become her greatest pain, and later, the very thing God would use to change her life forever. Hannah was 32 years old, and there was one question she had heard too many times. When are you getting married? She heard it from relatives, church members, old school friends, and even women she barely knew. Sometimes they asked with a smile. Other times, their words felt like pressure. Hannah always smiled and said, "God's time is the best." But deep inside, she was beginning to be tired. Hannah loved God. She was a faithful Christian and served as the choir mistress in her church. Every Sunday, she stood before the choir, leading them in songs of praise. She loved singing about God's goodness, even during the times when her own heart felt heavy. During the week, Hannah worked as a customer service officer at a telecommunications company in Lagos. Her job was not easy. She spent hours answering calls, helping angry customers, and solving problems. But she was proud of her work because she earned her own money and took care of herself. Still, there was an empty place in her heart. Most of her close friends were already married. Some had children. Some had even bought houses with their husbands. Whenever Hannah attended their weddings, she smiled and celebrated with them. But when she returned home to her small apartment, the silence felt different. One evening, after choir practice, Hannah sat alone in the church. She looked at the empty chairs and whispered, "Lord, when will it be my turn?" She quickly wiped her eyes. She had prayed many times. She had waited. She had trusted. But now, at 32, she was beginning to wonder if God had forgotten her. That night, her mother called on the phone. "My daughter, have you met anyone?" Hannah sighed. "Mommy, please, I am tired of this question." Her mother became quiet for a moment. "I only want you to be happy." "I know, Mommy." After the call ended, Hannah placed her phone on the bed. She looked at herself in the mirror. "I cannot keep waiting forever." The following Sunday, she went to church. After Sunday service, Hannah stayed behind with the choir members for a few minutes. She was helping to arrange the hymn books when Gabriel walked over to her. "You sing so well," he said with a smile. "I have noticed you many times, but today I decided to tell you." Hannah smiled shyly. "Thank you. My name is Gabriel." "I know," Hannah replied. "I have seen you in church so many times." They both laughed. Their conversation was simple, but it was the beginning of something Hannah had been praying for. Over the next few weeks, Gabriel started calling her on the phone. They talked about work, family, church, and their dreams. Gabriel was calm and gentle, and Hannah began to feel comfortable around him. Then one evening, Gabriel looked at her and said, "Hannah, I am serious about you. I want us to get married. Hannah's heart jumped. After years of waiting, she finally believed her prayer had been answered. The next Sunday, Hanna could hardly wait for the service to end. As soon as the choir finished packing up, she hurried to Pastor Daniel's office. "Pastor, I have something to tell you." Pastor Daniel smiled. "What is it?" Hanna could not hide her excitement as she sat down in the office. "I have met someone." Pastor Daniel's eyes opened wide. "Oh my goodness, finally!" Hanna laughed. "Yes, Pastor. His name is Gabriel. We have been talking for some weeks now, and he has told me that he wants to marry me." Pastor Daniel smiled. "That is good news. I am happy for you. But bring him to my office after the meeting. I would like to meet him." Hanna nodded happily. After the church meeting, Hanna brought Gabriel to Pastor Daniel's office. They talked for some time about family, work, faith, and marriage, while Hanna sat beside Gabriel, smiling. Gabriel spoke calmly and told the pastor that he was serious about Hanna. When the meeting ended, Gabriel left the office. Pastor Daniel then looked at Hanna. "My daughter, I am happy that you have met someone, but please take your time." Hanna's smile faded slightly. "Pastor, marriage is a big decision. Do not choose a man only because you are tired of waiting. Pray. Watch his character. See how he treats people when he is angry. See how he behaves when things do not go his way." Hanna nodded. Pastor Daniel continued gently. "Do not allow your age or the pressure from people to make this decision for you. Give yourself time to know this man properly." Hanna listened, but deep inside, she felt she had already waited long enough. "Pastor, I have prayed," she said softly. "I believe God has answered me." Pastor Daniel sighed. "I hope you are right, Hanna. Just remember what I told you." She nodded and walked out of the office. Her heart was full of hope. The wedding day came sooner than many people expected. Hanna stood before the mirror that morning, dressed in her beautiful wedding gown. Her heart was full of joy. She looked at herself and smiled. "Lord, thank you. Thank you for finally answering my prayer." Gabriel stood at the altar waiting for her. When Hanna walked toward him, he smiled. The wedding was beautiful. Their family and friends celebrated with them. Hanna's choir members sang, and Pastor Daniel prayed for their home. As Hanna and Gabriel left the church, she believed she was stepping into the happiest part of her life. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. Gabriel was caring. He asked about her day and sometimes helped around the house. They talked about their plans and dreamed about having children. Hanna felt peaceful. She thought about Pastor Daniel's warning and smiled. "Maybe I was right," she told herself. "Gabriel really is a good man." But things slowly began to change. One evening, while they were having dinner, Gabriel put down his spoon and looked at Hanna. "I have been thinking about something." "What is it?" Hanna asked. "I don't think you should continue working." Hanna looked surprised. "Why?" "You don't need to work anymore. I earn enough money to take care of us." Hanna was quiet. "But I like my job, and I have worked hard to build my career." Gabriel shook his head. "You are my wife now. I want you to stay home and take care of the house." Hanna looked down at her plate. She remembered how hard she had worked as a customer service officer. She enjoyed helping people and earning her own money. "But Gabriel, why can't I continue working?" He sighed. "Do you not trust me? I am your husband. I can provide everything you need." Hanna did not want to argue. She loved her husband and she wanted peace in her home. So she agreed. A few weeks later, Hanna resigned from her job. On her last day, she packed her things and walked out of the office with mixed feelings. She told herself that she was only entering a new season of her life. She did not know that leaving her job would soon make her completely dependent on Gabriel. And slowly, the man she thought she knew would begin to show her another side of himself. A few months after Hanna left her job, Gabriel began to change. At first, it was small things. He started coming home late without explaining where he had been. Sometimes, when Hanna asked him a simple question, he answered with anger. One evening, Hanna prepared his favorite meal and waited for him. When Gabriel came home, he barely looked at the food. "You didn't have to wait for me," he said coldly. Hanna looked at him. "I just wanted us to eat together." Gabriel said nothing. Hanna began to notice that the gentleman she married was slowly disappearing. Still, she kept telling herself that marriage had difficult seasons. She prayed that things would get better. One Saturday evening, Gabriel told Hanna they were going out for dinner. "We're meeting my friend David and his wife Sarah," he said. Hanna smiled. She dressed carefully and followed him. When they arrived at the restaurant, David and Sarah welcomed them warmly. "Hanna, you look beautiful," Sarah said. "Thank you," Hanna replied with a smile. The four of them talked and laughed for a while.
Sarah asked Hanna about her work. Hanna hesitated. "I stopped working after the wedding." "Oh, I see," Sarah said kindly. Before Hanna could say anything else, Gabriel laughed. "She doesn't work anymore?" David smiled. "You must be enjoying being a housewife." Hanna nodded. "I am trying my best to take care of the home." But Gabriel suddenly leaned back in his chair. "Trying your best?" he said. Everyone became quiet. Gabriel looked at Hanna. "What exactly do you do all day?" Hanna looked confused. "I take care of the house, I cook, clean, and..." Gabriel laughed. "Oh, please." Hanna's face changed. Gabriel looked at David and said, "David, your wife is doing well. Look at her. She has a job, she contributes to the family, and she is useful." Then he pointed toward Hanna. "Unlike my wife." Hanna froze. Gabriel continued laughing. "She is so useless and good for nothing. All she knows how to do is sit at home and ask me for money to buy food." The table became silent. David stopped smiling. Sarah looked at Hanna with shock. Hanna felt tears gathering in her eyes. She wanted to disappear. She looked at Gabriel, hoping he would realize how much his words had hurt her, but he simply continued eating as if nothing had happened. That night, Hanna learned something painful. The man she once believed was her safe place had become the person making her feel worthless. And for the first time, she began to wonder if Pastor Daniel had seen something she refused to see. When they finally got home, Hanna walked quietly into the bedroom. Gabriel removed his shoes and sat on the bed as if nothing had happened. Hanna stood near the door for a moment. "Gabriel?" He looked at her. "Yes?" "Why did you say those things about me tonight?" Gabriel frowned. "What things?" "You called me useless. You called me good for nothing. You said I only ask you for money." Gabriel sighed. "Hanna, it was just a joke. Don't take everything so seriously." "A joke?" Hanna asked, her voice shaking. "You said it in front of your friend and his wife. You made me feel so ashamed." Gabriel stood up. "I was only telling the truth." Hanna's eyes filled with tears. "I left my job because you asked me to. I stay at home and take care of this house because you wanted me to. Why would you now use that against me?" Gabriel stared at her. "You are my wife. Taking care of the house is your duty." Hanna wiped her tears. "But you don't have to make me feel worthless." Gabriel walked past her. I don't have time for this. He turned off the light and went to bed. Hanna remained standing in the darkness. She quietly walked to the bathroom, closed the door, and began to cry. For the first time, she understood that the problem was not only what Gabriel had said at dinner. Something inside their marriage had changed, and Hanna was beginning to wonder if the man she married was truly the man she thought she knew. A few weeks after that painful dinner, Hanna began feeling different. She was tired all the time. Some mornings, the smell of food made her feel sick. She also noticed that her menstrual period was late. At first, she tried not to think about it, but one morning, she bought a pregnancy test. Her hands shook as she waited for the result. When she saw the 2 lines, she covered her mouth. She was pregnant.
Tears filled her eyes. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. For the first time in many weeks, Hanna felt a deep joy inside her. She could not wait to tell Gabriel. That evening, when Gabriel returned home, Hanna met him at the door. "Gabriel, I have something to tell you." He looked at her. "What is it?" Hanna smiled. "We are going to have a baby." Gabriel stood still for a moment. Then his face changed. "Are you serious?" Hanna nodded happily. "Yes." Gabriel smiled and hugged her. For a moment, Hanna felt like everything would be fine. She believed their baby would bring them closer. And for some time, things did seem better. Gabriel was excited about becoming a father. Hanna spent her days preparing for the baby and praying for her family. When their son was finally born, Hanna held him close and cried tears of joy. "My son, God has blessed me," she whispered. But as the months passed, Gabriel slowly returned to his old ways. He stopped going to church. He became impatient with Hanna and complained about almost everything. If the food was not ready, he complained. If the house was not perfect, he complained. If Hanna asked for money to buy something for their son, he would ask, "Why do you always need money?" Hanna tried her best to keep peace. She had no job anymore, so she depended on Gabriel for everything. One evening, after Gabriel shouted at her over a small matter, Hanna carried her sleeping son into the bedroom. She sat beside his bed and watched him sleep. Tears rolled down her face. She remembered the woman she used to be. She had her own job. She had her own money. She had dreams. Now she felt trapped. Hanna lowered her head. "Lord, please help me." Her voice broke. "I was tired of waiting. I rushed because I thought you were taking too long." She wiped her tears. "Please forgive me." That night, Hanna made a decision. She did not know how yet, but she knew she had to find a way to rebuild her life. The next morning, Hanna woke up with a different kind of strength. She looked at her sleeping son and remembered the prayer she had made the night before. She knew she could not depend on Gabriel forever. She needed to build something of her own. Hanna started saving small amounts of money. Whenever Gabriel gave her money for food or things for the house, she tried to keep a little aside. It was not much, but she was patient. One afternoon, while using her phone, she saw an online course about digital marketing. She became interested. "If I learn this, maybe I can use it to start something," she said to herself. She enrolled in the course. At first, it was not easy. She had never studied digital marketing before. There were many new words and things she did not understand. Sometimes, her son would cry while she was watching a lesson. Other times, she was too tired to study. But Hanna refused to give up. She remembered how she used to work hard at her old job. "I can learn this too," she told herself. As she learned more about social media, advertising, and online business, Hannah remembered how much she loved baking. She had always enjoyed making cakes and small chops for family and friends. Then, an idea came to her. She would start a small business from home. She called it Hannah's Treats. She began making birthday cakes, wedding cakes, cupcakes, puff-puff, samosas, and spring rolls. Her kitchen became her little bakery. With the skills she had learned, Hannah started taking pictures of her cakes and posting them online. At first, very few people noticed. Some days she received no orders. She would look at her phone and wonder if she should stop. But then she would look at her son. "No," she would say, "I cannot give up." Her first order was a small birthday cake. Then, another person ordered small chops. Soon, she received an order for a wedding cake. Hannah could hardly believe it. She worked late into the night while her son slept. She woke up early to prepare orders. She was tired, but she was happy. Slowly, more people began to hear about Hannah's Treats. Customers started sharing pictures of her cakes. Her orders increased. One evening, Hannah looked at the money she had made that month. It was more than she had ever expected. She smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Lord. I know this is only the beginning." By the time Hannah's son turned 5, Hannah's Treats was no longer a small business. Her wedding cakes, birthday cakes, cupcakes, and small chops were becoming popular. Orders came from different parts of the city, and Hannah had started working with a few people to help her. For the first time in years, she felt hopeful. But Gabriel did not celebrate her success. One evening, he came home with a strange woman. Hannah looked at him in shock. Who is she? Gabriel looked at her without shame. She will be staying here. Hannah's heart sank. She looked at her 5-year-old son, then back at Gabriel. You brought another woman into our home? Gabriel said nothing. That night, Hannah cried, but she did not fight. She remembered all the pain she had endured. She remembered her prayers and how hard she had worked to build a better life. The next morning, she packed a few clothes for herself and her son. Her hands shook as she carried the bags out. Her son held her hand. "Mommy, where are we going?" Hannah smiled through her tears. "We are going somewhere peaceful." She did not take revenge. She did not insult Gabriel. She simply walked away. With her son beside her and her small business growing, Hannah began a new life. It was not easy, but she had learned something important. She could lose a marriage without losing herself. And as she walked out of her husband's house that morning, Hannah whispered, "Lord, guide me into the future you have prepared for me." She had no idea how far Hannah's Treats would take her. She only knew that her story was not over. She rented a comfortable apartment for herself and her son. It was not very big, but it was comfortable. Years passed and Hannah's life changed completely. What started as a small business in her kitchen had become a large food and catering company. Hannah's Treats now made wedding cakes, birthday cakes, cupcakes, and small chops for big events. She had workers, delivery vans, and a large bakery. Hannah had also become a millionaire. But she never forgot where she came from. She stayed humble and continued to trust God. Meanwhile, Gabriel's life had taken a different path. He was now working as a manager in a large company in Lagos. He had no idea that the company he worked for had been bought, and he now had a new owner. One Monday morning, Gabriel received an email. All senior managers are required to attend a meeting with the new owner. Gabriel became curious. "Who bought the company?" he asked his friend. "Nobody knows," the man replied. That morning, Gabriel entered the meeting room and sat with the other managers. Everyone waited quietly. Then the door opened. A woman walked into the room wearing a simple but beautiful gown. Gabriel looked up. His face suddenly changed. He knew that face. He could hardly breathe. "Hannah?" The room became quiet. Hannah walked calmly to the front of the room. She looked at Gabriel, but she did not show anger. "Good morning, everyone," she said. Gabriel stood slowly. You own this company? Hanna looked at him. Yes. He could not believe it. The woman he had once called useless was now a successful businesswoman and the new owner of his company. Hanna? He said softly. She looked at him calmly. Gabriel walked toward her. I am sorry. Hanna said nothing. I was wrong, he continued. I treated you badly. I said terrible things to you. Please forgive me. The room was quiet. Gabriel lowered his head. I never knew you would become this successful. I wish I had treated you differently. Hanna looked at him for a moment. She remembered the dinner where he had called her useless. She remembered the nights she cried. She remembered leaving their home with their 5-year-old son. But she also remembered the small kitchen where Hanna's treats started. She remembered the long nights of baking, studying, and praying. Finally, Hanna spoke. Gabriel, I forgive you. He looked up. You do? Yes, she said. I have no reason to carry anger in my heart anymore. Gabriel's eyes filled with tears. Can we start again? Please come back to me. We can be a family again. Hanna shook her head gently. No, Gabriel. His face fell. I have forgiven you, but forgiveness does not mean I have to return to the life that hurt me. Gabriel was silent. Hanna continued. I once thought God was late. I thought everyone else was moving forward while I was waiting. So I rushed into marriage because I was afraid of being left behind. She paused. But now I understand something. She looked at him with a peaceful smile. God was never late. I was simply impatient. Gabriel lowered his eyes. Hanna walked out of the meeting room with peace in her heart. She continued raising her son and growing her business. She also used her success to help women who were struggling and teach them skills they could use to build their own lives. Her son grew up watching her mother work hard, pray, and trust God. Hanna's story became a reminder to many people that waiting is not always punishment. Sometimes waiting is preparation. Sometimes the answer is not that God has forgotten you. Sometimes He is teaching you to trust His timing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share for more inspiring stories.